Oh my god, the mic. The mic is in, but I'm saying hello. Let's see how long this I rejected a medical school. The rejectee became the rejector. I lied. I absolutely lied. The video is going to be so chaotic. It's just consistency. My camera doesn't run out of battery. It did. So I lost all my footage. Fantastic. I actually need to calm down. Hi everyone, welcome back to my digital diary. My name is Yashika and I'm currently a resident doctor in Australia. So this video is about my journey into medicine. A lot of people ask me about how I got where I am today, the steps I took, how I did with the exams, how many times I took the exams. So I suppose this is quite an exciting video because actually this is going to be a reflection of how far or how things have developed across 10 years, which is a decade, and that's such a long time to be thinking about how my journey has progressed. And obviously medicine is, it's a professional vocation, but a lot of things have happened personally as well, and there's quite a bit of overlap between my personal and professional life. So I think this is quite an exciting video to be making around that. For a bit of context, I am a PGY3 doctor, which is the equivalent of being an F3, I guess, in the UK. I've come back from work today. I'm currently on the geriatrics and rehabilitation rotation, which is a lot less busy and intense compared to other rotations I've done. Hence, I'm still wearing my clinical gear. But also, I thought I'd kill two birds in one stone if I'm already kind of dressed up. So when I say dressed up, I'm not in my pajamas. Let's start with GCSEs. I literally sat my GCSEs between 2010 and 2012. It's currently 2025, which is crazy to think about. So this is literally more than 10 years ago that I did this. And I remember during my GCSE it being such an important time of my life, and I was like, oh my god, this is the be all, this is the end all. But as time progresses, you realize actually your earlier examinations probably matter less and less as time goes on. I remember the feeling of that, but I don't actually remember what I got. They were pretty average. It wasn't like amazing, but they weren't the worst grades either. From just the top of my head, I think I just got like A star, A's, and a few B's. I can't remember exactly what I got in each specific subject. The sciences, I'm pretty sure I just got A stars and A's. For maths as well, I think I either got an A and a B or something like that. English, same. English literature, English language. So nothing spectacular, but they were decent enough. I think the whole system's changed. I think it's like numerical values. So anyway, that was GCSEs. And to be honest, at that time, I think I was keen to get into medicine, and that was the plan. And my grades, like I said, it wasn't fantastic, but actually it was enough to get into medicine. I moved on to A levels. My A levels were then between 2012 and 2014 after my GCSEs. For context, I had moved schools. So I did my secondary school, which is from year 7 to year 11 is secondary school here in the UK. Here is Australia. And year 12 and year 13 is sixth form. You can choose to spend year 12 and year 13 either within school, or you can go to college. So there's just two separate pathways you can pick. I chose to stay within the school system, but I wanted to move schools. I've heard that the other school I moved to was just a little bit better in terms of its reputation for its A levels. Can I just say, I had such a wonderful time at this sixth form, which was probably reflected on my grades because they were not that good. I'll be very honest. I just met new people, new friends. It was a lot more diverse than my secondary school. I made friends, people I still keep in contact with. One of them I married. As far as it goes to say, my sixth form was a very, very enjoyable, and I had a very fun time when I was there. In terms of my sort of studying, it was, it wasn't great. So again, I say this that I generally can't remember the grades. I did take 4 A levels. So I took it in all the 3 sciences, so physics, biology, and chemistry, and also a language, which was German. So I then dropped to German in year 12, and I've just progressed with all the 3 sciences. I either got BBC or BBB, and I'd say I can't remember because I sent one exam paper to be marked. Sometimes when you send papers to be remarked, they can change your grade, and I think I was on the cusp. And then when they remarked it, I think I got a B. I can't remember. All my previous GCSEs and A levels, all the certificates and grades, they're sitting back home in UK somewhere collecting dust. So the point I'm trying to make essentially is that do not worry if you did not get your appropriate grades at GCSE or A levels. If you want to do medicine, there will be a way around it. Trajectory I had from GCSEs looked really good, but when I got into A levels, I think I probably did lose a little bit of motivation. Really, I didn't know if medicine was for me. It was something that I was considering, but actually looking back at it, I think there was a time where there was just so much going on. With that in mind, I still opted to go to university and choose a degree in BSc Biomedical Sciences. So this was a 3-year degree that I did. It was between the years of 2014 and 2017. The Biomedical Sciences was a way to still be in like the medical field, but not quite tied to medicine directly just yet. But to be honest, it was as closest I could have been, because a lot of our lectures we'd shared with like medical students as well. It kind of gave me a bit of insight that way. During my BSc Biomedical degree, again, I had such a good time. My personal life did not suffer, I will say that. It was such a fun time. I made friends for life. I did so much during that time. I did a lot of charity shows, which involved a lot of dancing. I discovered my passion for dancing. I didn't know I liked dancing until I started participating in shows, and I realized actually this is quite fun. Good way to be getting exercise, get your fitness going, and actually it was quite social as well. So I met a lot of people that way, and it was a really good time. After my first year, my grades were not that great. Again, I think I got just below 60%. It was not, it wasn't fantastic. It wasn't great. Luckily, I think a lot of unis do this where your first year doesn't count, or it contributes very little to your overall grade. And they probably know that, a lot of students have moved away from home and it's their first time. I remember opening my results up for my first year exams. I wasn't happy with the way things were going. Did a whole reflection, and come second year, I organized myself some work experiences. I explored different avenues of what I want to do. And I realized actually medicine is probably the end goal. I did want to be in a profession, in a field where I had good patient contact, I was able to use clinical skills. There is actually a transfer pathway into medicine between second and third year. With the transfer scheme that I had, unfortunately, I just didn't make the cutoff for it. I was 1% off. So again, I wasn't too upset about that. But because at the back of my mind, I knew the end goal would be medicine, and I would get there regardless of what route or path I took. And then during third year, I did try and sit the medical entrance exam. So at that time, it was the GAMSAT, to see if I'll be able to just apply directly after my third year ended to medicine. I didn't do too well. I didn't make the grades for it. And by that time, I honestly was so tired. I think I needed a gap year anyway, which is something that I did end up taking. So I ended up graduating with an upper second class degree, which is basically a 2-1. And I was really happy with that. So my gap year was between 2017 and 2018. This was a good year for me in the sense that I was really able to focus my application for medicine, really enhance my CV, get my work experiences sorted out. And personally, that motivated me to really want to do medicine. Graduated in the summer of 2017, and I had this whole year ahead of me thinking, what was I going to do? And I remember sitting down and thinking how I would go about this year. The main goal was to get into medicine. I then worked backwards to see what I needed to do to achieve that. So in order to get into medicine, I needed interviews. In order to get to the interview, I needed to do the medical entrance exams. In order to be even eligible for the actual course itself, I needed to make sure that I had the appropriate qualification. So I figured out that I was eligible for these courses and started working from there onwards. I wanted to maximize my chances of getting into medicine. So when I went to actually apply, I did it very strategically. Essentially, I did 2 graduate entry medical courses, which just means that you've done 1 degree before that, and the graduate entry medical courses is accelerated. So instead of it being the 5-6 year course, you'll do it in 4 years. I also applied to 2 undergraduate degree courses. So like that's your traditional 5 or 6 year course. In the UK, we applied by UCAS. I don't know if it's changed, but at that time when you apply to medicine, you can only apply to a maximum of 4 universities, with the fifth one being any other choice. I also picked Irish universities to apply to, so I really wanted to do medicine, and I made sure that my chances were as maximized as possible. So if you're in this sort of stage as well, I would recommend you doing the same. I know there might be some barriers to applying to undergraduate medicine, so that could include finance, which is probably a huge thing. You don't get funding as much as you would doing a graduate entry medical degree, so that is something to consider, which is why my gap year was incredibly useful for the financial perspective side of things. Come September time, I applied for all these part-time jobs as a healthcare assistant. Now, I remember something a medical entrance exam at that time, and I also had this interview for this part-time job I was applying to, right? So in the back of my mind, I was like, oh gosh, it's my short-term goal versus my long-term goal. Long-term, I want to get into medicine, but short-term, I need to do something in my gap year to make it a bit more worthwhile. I ended up doing both, and it was actually okay. So I went for my interview for my Band 2 healthcare assistant job, and then I just sat my exam in the coming weeks, and it was okay. I managed to get my job offer for that as well. This allowed me to not only gain a host of experiences on the wards, working alongside the multidisciplinary team, being able to communicate with patients, and literally a vast majority of skills I was able to pick up on, but also finance as well. I was able to save up money for going to university to do whatever course I ended up being, whether that was to Ireland or undergraduate medicine or graduate entry medicine, just to make sure that I had enough money if I could afford it. I know my parents are wonderful and they would support me in whatever I do, but there comes a time where you probably want to be able to support yourself as well, right? So the medical exams that I did during my gap year was GAMSAT and UCAT. So GAMSAT is for graduate entry medical courses. UCAT is, sometimes they use it for graduate entry courses, but it's largely for undergrad as well. For the graduate entry course I applied to, which is Scott GEM, they actually wanted your UCAT, the SJT section from the UCAT, and your GAMSAT score, which was something I never heard before. Hey ho. Fast forward January of 2018, I met the cutoff for the graduate entry courses, and I met the requirements for the undergrad course. This is the first time I started getting offers for interviews. I never got offers for medicine before, so this is really exciting. I remember when I went to do my interviews at the time, my line manager literally gave me a week off because I had some annual leave saved anyway. It was really supportive, and I told her, that I wanted to do medicine. She gave me a whole week off leading up to the interviews, which was so grateful for her for doing that. Let's talk about my medical school offers. My first offer I got was to Anglia Ruskin University, which was really exciting. This was an undergraduate course that I'd applied to. It was MMI station. I remember going with a family friend to that interview. It was the first interview I sat, and I didn't know what to expect, and it was so nerve-wracking, so scary. But actually the interview was okay, and I got an offer to do medicine. I guess it was unconditional because I've already achieved my grades for my undergraduate degree, and I met all the requirements. So that was insane. In my mind, that was just crazy. In terms of preparing for the interview, I used this book, which I'll just pop up on the screen. And all I did was just use the peel structure or the star structure to answer all the questions. And I just practiced so much with my family and friends before the interview, just random questions to make you think on your feet. A lot of it was role play and testing your communication skills, which is super important for medicine anyway. And there'll be just a few abstract stations that you wouldn't even be able to prepare for, but actually it's not the questions or the stations you're preparing for, it's being able to think on your feet, and showing that you have a good working thought process rather than getting the right answer. I then got an offer from the Scott GEM course, which was really exciting for me at that time because it was the graduate entry medical course that I really wanted. One being it's, the accelerated 4-year course, two being finances a little bit better. I remember booking my train tickets and taking a train all the way up to Scotland by myself. And I remember then booking this overnight accommodation / hostel room. The next day getting up, The interview was at Nine Wells Hospital. The interviews were MMI structured, and there was about like 6 stations, I think. And I vividly remember this one station where I misread the prompts. I thought the prompt was something to do with where I was speaking to a parent, but it was actually speaking to a child or a teenager. The examiner stopped me halfway through the prompt to say, you need to start again, like you misread the prompt, this was not the right direction. And I had a mini heart attack at that time. I was so stressed. I was like, oh my God, this is the worst thing that could ever happen to me. But actually, in a way, that kind of relaxed me, because that station was maybe the second MMI or the third one. And because I kind of screwed up, that really laid me back. And I was like, do you know what? The worst has happened. And actually, from then on, the rest of the stations were fine. And that's the beauty about MMI. Each MMI station is marked independently of each other, which means that even if you screw up one station, it doesn't impact your markings on the next station. And I don't know what I got in terms of the score for each station, but I did get an offer for the course itself, which was honestly, that feeling I will never forget, because it's something that I was working so long and so hard for. And I still have my acceptance letter. That time they were posting out the acceptance letter, which I don't know if they still do anymore. Again, I don't know where it is. It's probably again sitting up with all my other qualifications that I have collecting dust, but it is somewhere. No, I lied. I absolutely lied. I have it with me. Actually, I brought it in a folder with all my important documents. I don't know what. Yes, never mind. I do have it. I then went on to get offers from the Irish universities as well. So essentially, I managed to get myself all these offers and I didn't know what to do. Funny story, I'd actually accepted my offer from the undergraduate course at that time, before even going for my interview to Scotland, because I had to reply to that offer within a week, which was not enough time for me to be able to get that interview in Scotland as well. So after I received my offer from Scotland, I rejected a medical school. I never felt such a weird mix of emotions. The rejectee became the rejecter. Imagine working so hard for this one goal and then having to write a letter to say, oh, I'm rejecting this medical school offer. And obviously it was because I had got an offer from somewhere else that was better suited to me. But still, I had checked 500 times that I definitely got the offer from the Scottish University before I rejected my offer for the undergrad one, because it was too much if I didn't get that offer and I rejected this one. So I just wanted to just actually use this moment to reflect and say, if anyone wants to take a gap year or drop year or whatever you want to call it, I would say go for it, and there is no shame to do so. I said it with my chest. Listen, I'm on my gap year. I'm here to work on myself. I'm here to build. I'm here to grow, and that is absolutely fine. Brings me on to my medical course. So I did my medicine degree from 2018 to 2022. It was a graduate entry medicine course. It was a brand new course at that time, so we were the first cohort to graduate. I had a really good time in Scotland. It was so beautiful, it was so scenic. I got to explore and do so many things. Unfortunately, COVID happened during the time of my medical degree. I really wanted to do an elective where, for example, I would have come abroad, like here to Australia. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and I ended up doing online global health, which is not nearly the same as doing like an elective abroad. Just to put out there, during my degree, I still carried on working as a healthcare assistant, which again, like I said, was such a useful job to have, because I was able to work as a healthcare assistant in Scotland during my degree, as well as being able to come back during Easter and Christmas breaks and pick up shifts in my local hospital where I live in Hertfordshire. That was a fantastic way for me to be able to build up my finances and still work on my, basic communication skills and appreciate how the ward and the NHS works in general. I really think if you sort of start from a place where you can understand what's happening around you and then build and then go up from there, you really begin to have an appreciation of the staff and the people around you and how things work. And this was really reflected on when I started my foundation program. Swiftly moving on to my foundation program. So this was between 2022 and 2024. It was a 2 years foundation course. which I applied to be in Hertfordshire, which is where I lived at that time. The area that I live in is close to London, so a lot of people said it was quite competitive to apply to. The way foundation ranking used to take place, because I know things have changed yet again, the point-based system was allocated where 50% of your points come from your medical degree and 50% comes from this HGT exam. So you can spend 4 years doing your medical degree and that will only be 50%, and you spend maybe 1 or 2 hours doing this one exam at the end of your final medical year, and that would be the equivalent of also 50%. I think they've taken the SJT exam away now, so I think your weighting is largely based on your medical degree. Or is it? I think they've even taken away the medical degree ranking. I'm not gonna lie, I think foundation ranking and allocation has become a little bit wild. Unfortunately, I'm not up to date on those on what's happening in medical schools and allocation, so probably better off if you guys want to know a bit more to do your own research at that time. But anyway, when I did it, certainly it was 50% medical degree, 50% your SJT. I think I got a total of, so it's out of 100. I think I got a total of 83 or 84. Again, I can't remember. I'm really bad with remembering exactly what like my grades I got. Now I'm intrigued to see what I got. I must have saved it somewhere. I got 87. Never mind. I played myself. Then completed 2 years of foundation training. So the specialties I worked in was stroke medicine, urology general surgery, pediatric medicine, rheumatology and general medicine, general practice / GP, and geriatrics. I will say foundation training was probably such a huge adjustment period of my life. They don't teach you a lot of things at medical school, and that includes being able to manage people, being able to manage logistics. A lot of it is admin, especially as an F1, which is foundation year 1 trainee. You will literally just be a glorified admin person that will be sorting out a bunch of random things that no medical school will be teaching you, and I guess it's just part of the job. And as you become more senior in your role, you'll probably have less and less to do with that. F2, I did feel like I started to apply my clinical knowledge a little bit more. I started to make clinical decisions a little bit more, especially during my on-calls and night shifts, and I thought, this is where I really started to apply what I'd learned. But again, I think largely your foundation program is essentially just being a logistics person. Working in the NHS is a different set of skills compared to, for example, if you're a resident / junior doctor abroad. I know resident doctors here in Australia it's such a different experience from what I can see compared to what I went through in the UK. And maybe I'll do a separate video on, the UK versus the Australian healthcare system. But certainly I've picked up and noticed differences anyway. We were also the first cohort to go on junior doctor strikes. So much had happened during this time. We had done 10 rounds of strikes before we actually came to somewhat of an agreement. I know talks are still taking place, and I'm sure by the time this video comes out, so much more would have progressed. But I remember one of the strikes, if there was a rule that if you were on call for during that shift, you could not strike. And I was on call for a lot of those shifts, which meant I was on the wards doing a lot of the stuff by myself, which again was a separate experience on its own. If you want to check out a lot of the things I experienced as a foundation doctor, I have loads of clips and sort of vlogs on my Instagram, which I'll link in my bio as well. The F2 training was probably the busiest year of my life. I got married during that year. So when I say F2, this was in 2024. 2024 was a really amazing year of my life. I got married, I traveled, I moved countries. I now live abroad. In terms of my rotation that I was doing when I got married, I was in GP practice, so it was probably a lot easier to take time off compared to if I was in hospital rotation, for example, because GP, I didn't have any on calls. It was a standard Monday to, I think it was even Monday to Thursday. I think resident life is very nice when you have really chill specialties like that. When you have busy specialties, it can be intense. I think one of the reasons I wanted to pick the deanery in Hertfordshire is because of I live in that area, and I would actually say try and pick a deanery that is close to home, because foundation training can be quite intense and very overwhelming. It can have an impact on your mental health. So having family and friends close by as a support network was a huge plus for me, and I really think that was strongly the reason I got through all of the NHS training that I did. And if anyone of you guys have trained in the NHS, you know you know there's so much going on. Interesting thing was, where I worked in at the hospital is also where I worked as a healthcare assistant. So that was actually a full circuit moment for me. I was able to recognize some of the staff I worked with. It was really nice to be able to work with people that I'd worked with before in a previous role. After my foundation training, I passed, I received my ARCP, thank God. I then made the decision to come to Australia, so which is why I'm here now. I applied to Australia during my F2 year. So after I got married, I came back and I realized, God, I need to plan for what I'm going to do with my further training. The way it works in the UK is the academic year runs from August till July. In order for me to have applied to some kind of training, I would have had to apply in November time of the previous year, and that's through a system called Oriel. But at that time I already knew I wanted to either locum as an F3 or move abroad. When I came back from my wedding, I started to look for jobs abroad, and Australia was definitely on the top list. And I know you guys have been asking so much about the move to Australia, the application process, what documents, what qualifications, everything that you require. And I promise I am working on that. This is essentially everything for that one YouTube video where you guys are so interested about how I came here and everything. It's all there, and I promise I am gathering all the information and everything that's appropriate to put it in one video. Because I remember, obviously, when I was applying, I had to look through so many different sort of articles and blogs and websites just to get to the right information. I'm hoping this video will be that sort of point of information for you guys when I get it published. That brings me to the end of this video. We made it, and it's literally night time. Thank you so much for sticking to the end of this video if you did. I hope that answers all the questions about my journey into medicine, what I did, how I got here, all the steps I took to get here as well. It's very non-traditional. I took the scenic route in, but I hope that will inspire you guys who want to do medicine and haven't quite done it the traditional way, or thinking to enter medicine at a much later stage in your life. It is very well possible, because that's exactly what I did. Shout out to my brother who got me this mic. He was literally on my 20 how old am I? 28. Got me this on my 28th birthday, saying that it would be for my YouTube, and here we are. If you guys have any more questions about this, or relating to my application process, or anything else, please leave them in the comment box below, and I'm more than happy to answer. Otherwise, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, just so it encourages me to make more videos, so I know I'm on the right track as well. But otherwise, I hope you're having a fantastic start to the new year. I wish you guys a prosperous and healthy year ahead. See you guys.